All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Parity Simulator live stream. I didn't say podcast this time, so we're making progress. And I'm joined again by Jeffrey Seaborn, but we also have a very special guest in the top corner right now, and that's Heather. Welcome, Heather. Well-known, prominent figure in the Parity community, the broader Ottawa Ultimate community. So it's a real pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Jefford, as you know, it's playoff time, which is exciting.
Business.
What changes about the stream, about the games?
Nothing changes because none of this actually happens, but we can pretend to take this a lot more seriously because at this point, 6 of our teams are well set up to progress in the championship bracket, while 4 of them will have to fight for their playoff lives right out of the gate. So already some excitement. Looking at the matchups, there's already going to be one awkward non-drive home. But
yeah, well, we'll get into that in a moment. Before we get that far, Heather, you've been a longtime Parity player. You've been a Parity GM in the past. When you get to playoffs, does your mindset change, or is it just another Parity game?
For me personally, yeah, for sure, my mindset changes, especially when I was in a GM role. You kind of move a little bit from like facilitating the game for everyone to facilitating the win for everyone, if you will. So for me personally, the game changes. I know there's like some known Parity players who really turn it on during playoffs. Like, for example, John Haig, someone that I think of as a playoff Parity player. But I think everyone plays differently and plays for different reasons, and so it really depends on who you are and what you want out of the league.
That's true. Well, fortunately, in virtual Parity, everyone takes it 100% seriously, just like they did every other point in the season. And we'll get into that in just a moment. I should start with some housekeeping things. So first of all, we are on the official Okia YouTube channel, so we're coming to you in a new official capacity. Very exciting. And there have been I made 2 small changes to the algorithm, so I should mention them for full transparency. One of them is that global inequality multiplier that I keep talking about. I've turned it even more because I still think we're getting too much skew towards the top. So again, a small tweak. The other thing, and this is of course essential, is that there are no longer any ties in the algorithm. We have removed ties. If a game ends tied, you continue to play until another goal is scored. So we've added a universe point basically to our algorithm because, as we all know, ties cannot happen in a playoff game. Isn't that right, Jeffrey?
No, that is it. We can't have that. There was some controversy in the past involving ties and time and seeds, and we want none of that. We want no controversy. We want full transparency. We want proper wins and losses, and hopefully, when we look back at the source code of your algorithm, we won't find any unnecessary adjustments or controversy there.
That's right. Well, I was thinking about that. Like, I'm trying to be transparent, but on the other hand, I mean, literally no one else has seen the math behind this. So not only could it be malicious, but it could just be wrong, and no one's checked it. So anyway, on that happy note, we should get into our games because there's an awful lot to cover today, and I wanted to start with our trade summary because this was the last opportunity that the GMs had to make trades before playoffs, and the rosters now are set for the next 4 weeks. Now, I know, Heather, you've had a chance to look at some of these trades. Are there any that stand out to you as kind of important moves as we head into playoffs?
Not really. It seems to me as though it's sort of following the normal Parity trend where you're trying to peak sort of the last trade cycle before playoffs and then just massage your team so you have the right roster. Looks like the GM still followed that move. It's always big to see Katie Axel move and actually Kelsey, the whole couple move, but to different teams. So you see a D swing there. But other than that, it seemed pretty like what you'd expect right before playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I know I was talking to Katie, and she was saying she wasn't pleased with her performance in the season thus far. So maybe now with a new team, she'll have an opportunity to shine here. I think that's someone to keep an eye on. And you will notice as well that one of our blank players did move. So Mehmet added a blank woman, and Nat picked up a woman to fill her blank. So it doesn't really change anything other than teams with blanks, everyone else plays a few more points. That's kind of how it works. Although in this case,
VT.
Virtual Heather gets some more playtime.
I'm always happy to see a blank on my roster for sure.
Okay, and let's have a look at that bracket, because it's a bit of a confusing one, Jefford. What makes this bracket so special?
As I was reminded earlier today, I should have known what this looks like because we've done it for the past 2 years. But basically, it is, the top 6 teams, like seeds 1 through 6, are guaranteed to go through to the championship bracket no matter their results. But the 7 through 10 seeds will have to fight their way up. They need to win tonight to progress. Otherwise, it's off to the, not repêchage, but perhaps they're just relegated to the championship. And nobody wants that right away.
Championship's better. And that's the thing you can see in the dark boxes, the consolation brackets, because, of course, unlike maybe some leagues or tournaments, you get to play every week, even if you lose. But of course, everyone wants to be in that final game, which is on the right there. At a glance, Heather, do any of these teams stand out to you as likely to go all the way?
Well, I was looking through the rosters earlier today. I thought Julia Riddick's band of lefties is pretty impressive. And then, of course, lefties and pals, I guess. You can't ever count out a team that Alicia Zhao's on. She has a pretty impressive record of getting to the finals, though I don't necessarily know, looking at that roster, that I would be placing money on them.
Yeah, fair enough. And hard to say who the dark horse will be, but maybe we'll think about that as we get into the game. So let's have a look at what our schedule is for tonight. So these are the 5 simulations we're going to run. And we're doing them in kind of reverse order to the bracket. So we're starting with kind of the lower seeded teams and moving our way up the bracket, although we do get a number 2 seed early. And this first game, Jefford, I think you alluded to it earlier. Not only is it an important game because the loser here is out of contention completely, whereas the top 6 seeds are double elimination, but it's also a couples matchup, GM Al and GM Kindha. What do you make of that?
Well, I as I said, it's going to be an awkward, end of the live stream. Like we're starting off with that game, so they'll have to sit and watch together for the whole rest of the time. It's also an interesting matchup when you look at it. You've got 2 players with outlaws on their resume. Let's look at the top 3 on each team.
On that note, why don't we? Let's pop in and have a look at those rosters. Let's have a look.
I already forgot about this feature.
Yeah, I know. We're always new features all the time to create the illusion of professionalism here. So sorry, carry on with that thought.
Yeah, so I'm looking at look at the top 3 on either side. You got Mike Lee, Kelsey Cherry, Justine Dagenet on Al's team, and you got Craig Ellis, Etienne Pepin, who came out of nowhere in Parity this year, and this has been amazing, and Jesse Robinson chucking balls all over the joint. And it's going to be exciting, I think. Lots of big throws. I'm looking for Kate, Cav, and Donahue to be dark horses for Al's team. Whereas, looks like Jim, is going to be the beneficiary of a lot of long throws, and Rachel Ing going to be moving the ball really fast and making for some fun Frisbee to watch if we could.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just ran our kind of 20-game odds simulation here, and as you can see, it gave a slight edge to Kindha, but these teams look very evenly matched. Heather, when you are on the field with these players, is there anyone in particular that scares you when you have to cover them?
I'll never want to cover Justine Dagenet. She's pretty relentless as a cutter. And then you're always scared when you're cutting under for the disc that she's going to lay out D right through you. When I was looking at these rosters, the player to note I thought tonight was Eric Labbé. If you assume that Greg Ellis and Mike Lee kind of cancel each other out, then you think that Labbé is going to kind of come in there, be pretty strong in the air, a tough matchup to cover for a lot of Al's squad, I think.
That's a great insight. If we were playing Real Ultimate, I would agree with you, but the algorithm has no idea what the matchups are. So we'll see. It does consider team defense, but it doesn't have particular matchups. So we'll see. Why don't we just get right into it with our first official simulated playoff game, not only of the season, but in Parity history.
All right, let's go.
So on that note, here we go. And we are off, and it's an early hold out of the gate. Again, when we ran our prediction algorithm, these teams looked very evenly matched, and maybe that's to be expected from 2 of what I wouldn't say weaker teams, but ended up lower in the standings. And as we start this game, we're out to an early 3-3 game. So things look even, and we're kind of waiting for perhaps one of these superstars to blow the game open.
And these games generally go in runs, as we've seen in the past, where one team will get a few in a row and break it open. But so far, well, we got a break. I think first break. And there we go. So is that it? Is that all it's going to take? Who knows? We'll see.
It's there's another break, and it's Mike Lee to Lynn for the break, and
3.
another one. So Team Kindha may be falling behind a little bit here and on their heels. Donahue getting on the scoreboard. And a turnover there from Andrea Dietz, which leads to another break. So although they seem to be mostly trading points, Al is slowly extending that lead, and there's another break. Kelsey Cherry getting on the scoreboard, new addition for Team Al. And Kelsey was actually one of Laura's top players, so that's a big pickup, I think. Although, of course, cap considerations were in play for that trade. So as we get to half, it's 15-12, so a 3-goal lead. Although Kindha scores to bring it down to 2 out of the half. So there's still a lot of ultimate to play, and after last week, we've seen teams come from behind, from in fact bigger deficits. But at this point, Al is really just looking very solid. If you're on Kindha's team, who do you look to break this deadline?
Well, I think you got to go through, run your offense through Jessie, especially if you're down late in the game. She's got some big hucks. Look for some of their taller receivers to make a difference too.
Well, sure enough, there, in fact, it's Jesse Robinson on the receiving side with the goal. But at this point, it looks like the teams are trading holds. I haven't seen a break in a few points here. Jesse Robinson throws to Greg Ellis. So as you predicted, Jesse Robinson getting really involved late in the game. And in fact, look at this, Ryan Muscle to Tom Ferguson. Breaks. But the lead is extended to 2, back to 1. So we need Ethan Brady throwaway. But Ethan Brady gets a block. He gets it back. And Al Colantonio holds Greg Ellis. So again, with 2 minutes left here, Team Kindha needs a break, but they don't get it. There's the horn, and looks like a really close game. An impressive performance from Team Kindha in a very high-scoring game. But it is Team Al who led early and never really gave up that lead, who takes the win.
Team 1 bias.
Team 1 bias starts early.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at our 3 stars. So, Greg Ellis, we mentioned early on, one of the premier players in the league, put in a great performance here with 4 goals, 4 assists, pair of blocks. That's a fantastic game. But on the winning side, it was new addition Kelsey Cherry. Also, that's not goals, 4 assists, 4 second assists, 29 touches. So he was quarterbacking that offense. And Kate Cav having a great game as well with 6 assists and no turns. But our breakout player of the game is Abe Greenspoon, Jeffrey.
Nice. He's always a pleasure to play with and against. He works hard and looks like he's 2 goals, 3 assists, 2 seconds, no turnovers, which is fantastic. Not so good on the breaks opportunities, only 2 of 11. We'll think about that in the relegation bracket, and maybe he can help tighten up the team defense there.
Yeah, that's something that maybe Team Kindha is going to have to work on in a high-scoring game like this. I think, Heather, that the takeaway for the losing team is you've really got to buckle down on defense.
Yeah, they say offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, and neither of these teams probably going to the championship, but if they want to, they're going to have to definitely play more D.
Wow, so I like the chirps early because, of course, Team Al has not been eliminated yet, but we'll have a look at that bracket in just a second. Jeffrey, can we how are we doing? Do we have anyone showing up in the comments for us here?
Well, goodness me, the comments are spread all over the place, as with all Frisbee communication in Ottawa. There's, people are in the chat on YouTube, and which is good. It's a close game. That's great. But then there's 2 channels worth of chatter on Slack happening. Al's wondering about a no 2-pass minimum. Not sure what's up with that. I haven't seen the algorithm or how it works. And indeed, Virtual GML will have to answer to Virtual GM Kindha for this.
The 2-pass minimum is a good question. There is a 2-pass minimum after a goal. I'm not sure if there's a 2-pass minimum after a pull. And now that I think about it, and in fact, I'm not even sure what the real ruling is. After a pull, can you score on that first pass?
I would say no.
Okay, I think that's allowed in the algorithm. Certainly after a goal, it requires 2 passes. But anyway, so that's something to think about.
Well, we'll have to redo the whole thing.
Or start from scratch. Hey, we've got all summer. We can resimulate to our heart's content because we have no new data coming in. So why don't we hop back over to our updated bracket? So you can see there at the bottom, Team Al with the very close and exciting win over Team Kindha, and that puts Al into the bracket, the bottom of the quarterfinals bracket. And Kindha is our first relegated team, unfortunately. Unfortunately for Kindha, at least. And that brings us to our next game here, which is JT got us Fallen in Love, Team Morgan with a 6-2 record in the 2 seed. And then had to lose a disc and 10 stalls for Team Brian. How do we feel about this game? I know Brian is our league assist leader currently, but Team Morgan has looked strong all season long.
Yeah, these are 2 teams whose rosters I looked through and just thought, I hate these rosters. I'm not sure from a statistical perspective, but from a team chemistry, team makeup perspective, neither of them really seem to have a vibe or a theme that they're going for. Brian's roster is very handler touch, like high touch player heavy. And Morgan's roster doesn't seem to have a lot of balance, has big names like Lance and Alicia. Ultimately, I go with Brian on this one. I think that they have a little bit more bench strength.
Bench strength, an important consideration. No, it is, especially when everyone is playing an equal number of points. In actual Ultimate, certainly in competitive Ultimate, but even in Parity Ultimate, the point distribution is not always even. It tends to skew a bit more towards the top players. So in this particular format, making sure you have even strength throughout the roster can matter. And as you can see, we just ran our quick little 20-game preview, and Team Brian has the edge, but again, this was the same edge that Team Kindha had and lost a close one in the last game. So this does look like it might be another close matchup. Of course, both these teams do go through to quarterfinals no matter what, but seeding will matter. Jefford, if you had to pick perhaps a dark horse candidate here, who do you think our breakout player of the game might be for either team?
I'm looking squarely at J Thor. You know, he's definitely played well in the second session of Parity and certainly simulating very well. So, I mean, a fun guy to have around. Not a guy who you want to get on the wrong side of chirp-wise because he's devastating, and I don't know what effect that'll have on our virtual players tonight.
Okay, well, why don't we get right into this game? So, without any further ado, we are off with our second simulated playoff game of the night, and teams trade holds to start. Again, these teams both simulated quite evenly, so I wouldn't expect a blowout in either direction, but certainly both teams have the potential, not just because of their talent, but I think because of their personalities to really go on runs, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I definitely agree. Having played with and against, all of these people before, like Heather talked about Alicia, who's on the field right now and scoring a break, is a super helpful person to play with. Alyssa Mainwood, is going to be throwing balls all over the place. And if she has receivers coming down with them, that could be bad news for Morgan.
Yeah, and she's been definitely, I would say, a volatile player this season. She's had a lot of great passes, quite a few throwaways as well, so she's playing a risky game, but I think that makes her a natural fit on Team Brian, and maybe why he went after her with a trade a few weeks ago.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, and that seems to have been Brian's strategy. I should also mention that Marcus Bordage here, who we just see getting involved in the play, is second on the goal-scoring leaderboard behind Alex Tremblay-La Rochelle. So I'm sure Marcus, although he's absolutely a team guy through and through, we'll be looking to get on top of that leaderboard in the final 4 weeks of the season. And there we go. We get to half. It's a Christo to Matt Skynes pass, and we're very close as we are early here in the second half, and it's still a one goal game. Teams trading points. So we've talked a bit about teams going on runs, but that has not been the case in this game. Looking very even so far. Although perhaps I've spoken too soon, because there's J Thor, our early call for Dark Horse, throwing the break to GM Morgan. And an opportunity here to hold that larger lead. So now, and another break there, it's Dan Thompson to Lance, and it's a 4-goal game. And it may be too late here for Brian to turn this around in a 5-goal game with Christy Ellis throwing that pass. So I'm not sure that Team Brian can turn this around. They're going to need a really impressive defensive performance here late.
No, it's the second half is the Jay Thor show. He's been in on goals, assists, seconds, and blocks that I've seen go by. So
yeah,
just a lot of throwaways for Brian's team too. Like you can't be that sloppy with the disc that late in the game, not in playoffs.
No, and look at that, another break to make it a 7-goal lead, and that's it. So 27-21. Wow. So I mean, perhaps we expected a slightly closer game, but it's Team Morgan that pulls out the win, and Team Brian is knocked out of a advantageous seeding position, but is not out of the playoffs yet. So this pre-quarterfinal is just that, just for seeding. But if we look here, look at this. Morgan Howard, our GM, leading by example, 3 goals, 5 assists in the winning effort on 29 touches. So that's a great game there. His teammate Lance Blackstock, 4 goals, 2 assists, also involved in the play. But for Team Brian, it was not someone we talked about much, but it was Rachel Young leading the charge. And we should have, absolutely. 3-3-3 and no turns.
Excellent.
That's a great game from Rachel. Graham Brown gets our breakout player of the game.
2 assists a second, 2 D blocks. That's amazing. He's really dug in. It's understanding, that playoffs, that defense wins games, but unfortunately, I think too many turnovers. He had no throwaways, but I think there were too many turnovers for the rest of the squad that sort of gave that away. 2 of 8 on breaks. Graham, you maybe look in the quarterfinals to do a bit better.
Yeah, well, if you read the summary from last week in the forum, you'll note that, to quote myself, Graham Brown had a breathtaking layout D, and perhaps he had 2 more tonight. So he's really coming to his own in simulated parity, certainly. But again, I'm very impressed with this Rachel Young performance. Heather, what did you see from Rachel in this game?
Yeah, I don't think it's surprising to see Rachel be super consistent. It seems like with 20 touches, no throwaways, you really got to look to the rest of the team to say, how were you causing that many turnovers? If was that involved in the play and was that consistent? But just some great playoff ultimate from Rachel. Not surprised to see. She's played in some big games before and just continues to perform.
Yeah. And I think we're going to keep an eye on her, of course, because they're again not out of playoffs. So we'll have a look at that bracket in just a second. But why don't we check in with our commenters? Are we hearing anything new, Jefford?
I'm trying to keep track and bouncing through all the things while also watching, the breathtaking ultimate not being played in front of us. Yeah, Al feels like he's sort of being held responsible for something he did in someone else's dream, which I think is definitely an apt point. Julia definitely saw 2 layout Ds from Graham, and
that's canon now.
Kelsey wondering if he in fact, exactly, and Kelsey wondering if he in fact did outperform Mike Lee. I mean, it seems legit, he says. Well,
it's a good question. I mean, you can't see this, but everyone will be able to have a look at all these at the PDFs later when I put them up. But in that game, Mike Lee had 5 assists, but not much else. So a good performance from Mike, but perhaps not the superstar performance we'd come to expect from him. Why don't we have a look at our bracket again? And we can see now our 2 teams. Our 2 teams from that game are in the bracket still, but Team Morgan, who won their pre-quarter, has perhaps the easier matchup against the number 7 seed in quarter. So that's what they were playing for here. And Brian will face the winner of our next game, which is between Team Julia and Team Laura. And
a game that I am looking forward to.
This is, frankly, I think, a very exciting game to watch. Why don't we have a look at their rosters? Because I think this is going to be a good one.
Oh man, it's going to be great. I mean, I would absolutely love to be able to put this pile of people together on a field and go play. This would be super great.
Yeah. Of course, Heather, perhaps you have a vested interest in one of these teams. Although it's hard to say whether it's a positive or a negative one sometimes for Alan. Do you think he's going to be a difference maker in this one?
Yeah, that was what I put in my notes. That definitely Okua's sexiest receiver will probably be a game changer in Alan Godding.
Well, he's certainly capable of it.
For For sure. He's just got to stop throwing away the disc so much. His stats have not been on par since he moved to simulation, which is surprising being a developer. You'd think he would know how to play on the internet a little bit better. The matchup I'm most excited for, I think, is the Hannah Lewis, Charlotte Muscles, just like goal-scoring, hard-running, fast-striking game. I think that's going to be super, super fun to watch. And they're both tireless, so I'm sure they'll both run, 7+ K in this game.
Undoubtedly.
Absolutely.
If only that was simulatable.
Well, yeah, I should. I'll pop back out to the stats for a second. Our Charlotte Muscles is number 4 in goals right now, 33. So putting in a great performance. I'm sure she'll be trying to make a difference. And we'll come back to this, but just wanted to highlight that Charlotte's having a great season offensively. Although, look at this. We finished our 20-game simulation, and Team Laura gets a strong edge here, looking like a 2-1 favorite as we go into this. So some work
on the Team 1 bias.
Some work for GM Julia. Again, we should mention that neither of these teams is at risk of elimination here, but they definitely want the better matchup that they can get. So without any further ado, let's hop into it. And we are off, and it looked to me like an early Allegoning throwaway leads to a break for Team Julia.
So the pressure pre-quarters.
But Laura gets on the board, and Charlotte Muscle, sure enough, scores the break, as she is wont to do, and prevents that early mistake from...
another.
What is it?
Yeah, the second throwaway for Alan.
And Laura with her second goal.
Yeah, and a break now.
Lots of disc movement, it seems like, from both teams. Really sharing the disc around the field, playing some good calm playoff ultimate.
Well, and a lot of goals, 10 goals, a quarter of an hour into this game. So this is high-flying ultimate, perhaps not the defensively minded ultimate that you might recommend on this stage, but certainly appropriate to Parity.
True, yeah, and I just threw it away twice in the last point, so that's pretty fantastic.
Of course, so Jefford Seaborn is in this game. We haven't talked about that yet, but the pressure's on Jefford.
Evidently, and apparently I'm not up for it yet.
So we saw Julia take a very early lead, but Team Laura's rebounded and went on a big run there to take a 4-goal lead now. So Julia's in a hole, and the game seems to have slowed down a bit. These are some much longer points, more possession-oriented, so maybe both teams decided to settle down. And it looks like that strategy is working for Team Julia. They clawed back a bit. But maybe not enough, because again, a string of breaks scored by Team Laura. So we hit half there. That's Julia Riddick throwing the pass, but it's a 4-goal difference. So Team Julia is going to really have to pull something together here in the second half.
Well, certainly based on our conversation last week, I mean, halftime would have been like a very positive experience with Julia. She's very calm, optimistic. I don't think anybody's panicking. I've just thrown a goal to Kenzie, so.
And a break. Julia Riddick gets on the scoreboard there, and Jefford Seaborn in the end zone with the break. And now it's a 1-goal game.
What's he doing there?
What's he doing there? And Julia Riddick, another break. Kenzie to Julia there. So we have a tie game with 20 minutes to play. Now, Team Laura is on serve here, but a break. Amlin to Hannah Lewis, and now Julia is on serve.
15 minutes to go.
Wow.
So time for a timeout.
And another break. Patrick Kenzie doing everything right now. And another one. Oh my goodness, this is a remarkable comeback because Team Laura had as much as
throwing it away.
A 4-goal lead, and now a 3-goal deficit. So there's a break to Cassie, but they're gonna need more here with just 4 minutes to play. Oh, and I don't think there's gonna be enough time.
We're eating up a lot.
Look at that, 2 minutes to go, and that's the end of the game. What a gutsy performance there from Team Julia to come back from, again, as much as a 4-goal deficit to win this game by 4. That is exciting. Well, I'm excited to see who our stars are. Who led the way here?
I know who's definitely not one of the stars.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second, but first, look at this. Hannah Lewis, fantastic performance in the win. Not just getting on the scoreboard, but 3 Ds, 27 touches. So the offense was running through her. And Matt Hogel, her teammate, 4 goals, 3 assists. So he was quarterbacking that offense. But notably, 7 of 9 on breaks. So Hogel was incredibly efficient on defense in this game. Travis Davidson doing his best for Team Laura. 2 goals, 4 assists, and no turns. So that's a good game from him. And GM Laura is our breakout player of the game. But look at this, Jefford, 5 goals.
unbelievable. I mean, she was like just doing all she could do. 5 goals, 2 seconds, a D block, on 18 touches, very efficient, was probably like marshaling the troops from the sideline, only 1 turnover. And with that kind of performance, their team not following, definitely there was a lot of contentious moments, I think, on the sidelines. I overheard Travis yelling, "Alan, stop throwing it away."
Well, you'll be able to see these, I hesitate to say. But Alan Godding had 19 catches, so he was quite involved in 2 goals. So that's not bad. But he had
not bad.
He had 7 throwaways on the
sideline. Had him at 6.
7 throwaways for Alan Godding. The poor guy has really become a victim of the algorithm because each week of more throwaways produces more throwaways in future games. So no opportunity to change how he's playing, basically. So it may in fact have been the difference in this game. But again, kudos to Team Julia with the gutsy win there. Are we hearing anything else in the comments about that game?
Alan is using up all his throwaways in non-elimination game, next level strategy. I like that one. And Julia, very proud of her team's performance, grinding out a win in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, as she should be, because it was a really impressive win there. We're doing okay for time, but I'm just too excited to see about this next game. So let's hop into it. Pardon me, we're getting ahead of ourselves because we should have a look at the bracket here first. I had hoped that the allegations of Team 1 bias were put to rest last week, because we did have the away team win a couple.
2 of them.
But so far in this game, the home team goes 3-0 again. And we can see how the bracket is, the quarterfinal bracket's starting to fill out here. Team Julia earns the fight against Brian. So this is a little confusing. But it's not an error. You see that the losing team from the 2-4 game went advanced in that bracket. And that's just this funky bracket looks like that. But all the teams are in the correct place, basically. There's a bit of a crossover thing. So anyway, Julia earns the game against Brian. And Laura is going to be playing, is going to have a potentially difficult matchup here against either the number 1 or the number 3 seed. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Because as we said, our game right now is Love Aggietually, which no longer has Aggie on the roster, notably. It's been like several weeks. And when Cranky met Cara, and Cara is still on the roster here, so that name is still up to date. Mehmet now with the addition of a blank, and also that means Heather Wallace is going to have some more time to play. You looking forward to that?
Always looking forward to playing more, though. When I saw our matchups, I thought, man, this is going to be a tough game. Goal scoring capacity in Katie Actel, and then Corinne and Justine with cannons. And when you're maybe looking for a break matchup against MAnge, that is not a good thing, because she's also super speedy and to threat all over the field. So good for MAnge for creating a friggin' dynamite roster of women. That's
the thing. I think this lineup of women would not be possible on actual Parity season. And it's partly because both Justine Price, Kate Actel, actually also Corinne too, all 3 of them are quite undervalued based on their stats early in the season. But it allows for this kind of roster building. So I'm sure Marielle's just having fun with this because, on the off chance we happen to just come back and pick up with these rosters, which is not how it would work, she'd get to play with 3 awesome women. So as you can see, we ran our little odds thing, and it does give Marielle's the edge, 12-8 in these 20-game sims, but it looks like our favorite has lost almost every one of our...
I think so.
So, yeah. I don't know how much...
So Team 1 has won every time. So.
Team 1 has also won every time, so now we're really, yeah.
It's time to buck the trend.
Buck the trend.
Go get a win, Heather.
Yeah, Heather's going to get a win. Well, why don't we...
Well, it's a battle of broadcasters right now, because Hadrian's on the blue squad.
That's true, and I have to say...
I used to be on the red squad, but...
Yeah, Jeffrey got shifted off. I've been with Marie-Ange from the beginning of session 2, and I must say it's been a lot of fun, at least for the weeks I was there in person. But yeah, if I was on the field with these 4 women, I'd be very excited too. So I think this is a great team to be part of. So on that note, why don't we go ahead and play the game? And we're off, and it's a break early. Peebo throwing the break there. So, bunch of throwaways on that point.
Virtual Heather throwing it away.
Yeah, there were like 3 or 4 turnovers there. And this is already looking messy. Now, both of these teams... Now, actually, I didn't think about this before. Didn't these teams play last week? I think they may have played in the last week of the regular season, and it was a high-scoring affair, or a high possession affair. A lot of touches in a game that MAnge won, if I'm not misremembering. And so far, it's looking a little sloppy. A lot of throwaways in this game so far.
I don't remember real Frisbee anymore.
Yeah.
All I know is simulations.
Yeah, it's all, I personally just see Matrix code when we're doing this. I added the graphical user interface for all your benefits. But we get back to the game, and it does look like MAnge has pulled out at least one break, but there's Mehmet and now Stephen Close getting on the scoreboard. So tying that game at 8s and looking even. Now, the other games we've watched tonight have also looked even early, and then one or both teams have gone on runs later on. So perhaps that's just what Playoff Simulator Ultimate looks like. Teams are kind of conservative early on, and then really start to put it on the gas in the second half. So at half, it's 12-12.
Dead heat.
So this is exciting, and we didn't mention this. I should maybe make it explicit, but the loser of this team is out of the playoffs, or out of the championship bracket anyway. There's no consolation here, no double elimination, so this is a really crucial game for the 8 and 9 seed here. And wow, long point, and it ends up in the hands of Corinne Dunwoody for the break there. But now a Justine Price throwaway leads to a Caroline Laszlo goal. So this game remains close, but MAnge getting the break there. Adam McDonald on the scoreboard. And MAnge continues to lead by a break. So with 15 minutes left, in a good position. But a turnover there, and Stephen Close scores. And now Heather Wallace gets on the board with the break to take the lead.
And another.
Oh no!
Man.
Another break.
Wow, the wheels are coming off.
The wheels are coming off, and another break.
Another break. Oh,
looks like MAnge just can't take the pressure.
No.
Yeah. It's this. This is terrible. So I throw one to Cam there to try and stop the bleeding, but it's a 6-goal.
Oh boy.
Wow. Well, I have to say I'm disappointed, especially after looked like we were in really good shape 3/4 of the way into that game, at least playing well and holding a small lead. But yikes, look at that. And just to add insult to injury, Patrick Mapp getting an unnecessary layout D with a 6-goal lead at the end of things. So congrats Team Mehmet, congrats Heather. Let's have a look at our stars here. And it's Cameron Kennedy in the losing effort, having a great game. And not just 4 goals, 4 assists, but 4 Ds. But look at this, Corey Boucher putting in a great game here with 6 assists. Looked great, 6 for 9 on breaks, so that's awesome. That's very good defensive conversion there. And Caitlin Fontaine, one of your favorites, Jefford, putting in a great game.
Yeah, no, we like Heather and I both have had to tell that team to get out of Caitlin's way, because she's fantastic. 9 of 16 on break attempts, 2 Ds, 2 assists, 3 goals, and a new playoff John. Can we say a breakout player of the game? John Seawick with 2 goals, 2 assists.
Yeah, very efficient.
And had 50% on break opportunities.
Yeah, and actually interesting here to note that Corey Boucher only played 9 D points, so definitely maybe they're running a bit of an O-line, D-line sort of thing here, whereas Caitlin was grinding it out on D and still managed 3 goals and 2 assists. So well done there. I don't know if we've heard anything from people. I'd be curious what people's predictions are for our final game between our number 1 and our number 3 seed. That'll be an exciting one. But what are people saying?
Oh, well, MAnge was pleased to announce that she was here, she was watching, and then, wait, can I swear on this? I guess she wrote it down, but she just wrote tabarnak when the break. So, yeah, that's a little unfortunate. I logged in and we lost. Yeah, sorry, MAnge. It's Hadrian's fault.
Yeah, it's ultimately, perhaps, yes. I didn't get the job done on the field, and I certainly didn't get the job done with the algorithm. So I could take some responsibility.
2 strikes.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at our bracket. And speaking as the algorithm guy, I'm happy to see a little bit of red on the page here because the away team did pull out 1 win in our games tonight.
Big upset. Can't coach clutch. Let's go.
Yeah. So the number 9 knocks out the number 8 seed. And Mehmet has earned himself a game against the winner of the number 1 and number 3 seeds. So that'll be tough. And Love Aggietually drops down into the consolation bracket, gets a nice game against Kindha next week, which I'm sure will be a high-spirited affair with nothing on the line. But yeah, like we said, this is our number 1, number 3 seed, Sully against Nat. And this is a game I'm definitely excited about as we look at our rosters here. I mean, there's so much talent on both these rosters. But Heather, when you look at this, who stands out to you as being not just perhaps a good player, but a real playoff performer?
Yeah, this is a game I would love to play in. I think it would be super fun. Colin Scarf's always, super consistent, tireless. Personal big love in my heart for ATL. We played on the same line together all summer. Lots of small ball, which is what Sully has set up his roster for. But I have to say, I'm excited to see Nat and Jose. I think that Sully's Achilles heel is that he has no female handlers or big disc movers really in his female lineup, and playing high level mixed ultimate, that's always a mistake. So excited to see how Nat and Deb and Jose and Stephanie really punish that.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how these teams match up. So I'm just running our little 20 game sense of the odds here in the background. But yeah, we talked about this in previous weeks. The Team Sully went for the game the algorithm strategy and basically just put a whole bunch of receivers around Bo and hope it works in a way that perhaps it wouldn't work in normal Ultimate. Now, in this case, it does look like Sully is the pretty heavy favorite here, our number 1 seed. But our favorite, I think, has lost all 4 of our other games tonight. So I don't know what to make of that, but I don't know. Let's just not write Nat off in this one. Jefford, if you look at Nat's roster and you see perhaps they're in a deficit situation, who do you look to turn the tide?
Well, I mean, obviously, Podmore is going to boost it. Mikey Davidson, will appear out of nowhere. I've played many seasons with Aggie. You just throw the ball, he's going to run. Cena's tireless, and Newman, will outthink people most of the time. Throw his laser flick at you. If you can catch it, you're golden. I did ask in the chat on the YouTube stream, Sylvina, who you got? Adam Mack says, Bo. Not a bad answer.
Yeah.
And we've got MAnge and Julia are pulling for Team Nat, and Pirates coming in on Sul's side.
Okay.
So,
yeah, well,
even split.
Keep your headphones on because I think the Berserkers are out in force for this one.
Yes.
I love that so much.
And and he's got some ground to make up. Brian put in 9 assists, I think, last week. So there's a gap opening up. Bo's still, I think, second on the leaderboard. So he's going to need a big night tonight. And on that note, let's get into it with our final simulation of the night, our number 1 versus our number 3 seed for prime playoff seeding. And look at that, Rachel Horler throwing the break early. But a handful of turns there. And another one, and now it's Sarah Thompson scoring the break. So this Sully team, yeah, that's important for the hold, but a quick hold there. Rachel Horler throwing another assist. So I think the lesson here is that you really can't afford to turn it over against Team Sully because they're just going to punt it. They're not. They've got a few people in the backfield who are going to run those give and goes, and then they're looking end zone right away. Whereas I think Team Nat strikes me as having...
Oh, break to go ahead.
Look at that, and another break.
Wow,
So now Newman on the board.
I wonder if they put on a zone, really slow down Sully's team.
Just take away the end zone. Well, it seems to be working because they've generated a bunch of turns. ATL to Colin for a very important hold there. And now Zach Santamor gets on the board with the break. So they've, unlike perhaps Team Mariange, who really fell in a hole, Team Sully gave up a run, but was able to calm themselves down, collect themselves, and they've been trading points since then. But they're still in a hole, and they've got some ground to make up as we approach halftime here. And another break there, Mikey Davidson with the goal.
man. Like I'm hoping that we have one of those second half little runs where we'll see Solo close this up at least a little bit, because it really looks like it's Matt's game right now.
Yeah, down 14-10 at half, but a break out of the half for Sully. And team's trading possession. Tom Newman keeps possession for the hold. A quick goal. So their Colin Scarf's just going to the end zone now, and they're just trying to hit him because they have some ground to make up with 25 minutes left to play. But a long point here. Nat not afraid to take their time, but another break goal. So that's progress for Team Sully, but they're going to need a lot of turns here. So some sloppy play when the game's on the line. Nat Mullen with the throwaway, but Zach throws it back away. Nat throws it back away. Oh, there's a bunch of throwaways. Well, we've only got 14 minutes left to play, and the teams seem to be getting sloppier. I didn't actually look at the game time here, but maybe it might be a late game that we're playing in.
Maybe. 10 minutes to go. 5-point game.
Oh, wow. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, but a lot of turns. So I don't know what's happened to Team Sully here, because they just have not been able to maintain possession. They're either scoring quick or throwing it away. And another turnover, Nat Mullen catches for the break. So they've really run away with it. And there you have it. So our number 3 seed, not the favorite by any means, but pulls out a commanding win here by 8 goals. Wow. Look at that. And I do just, you aren't going to be able to see this on your screen, but I can tell you that Team Sully had 22 throwaways, but Team Nat only had 14. And 217 completions, and they only had 14 throwaways. So, wow. Team Nat playing that possession game, playing that patience game, and it paid off. It doesn't always in Parity Ultimate, but it paid off tonight.
Well, it certainly doesn't pay off when you have to balance your salaries. Yeah. Because you just keep accumulating if you keep possession too long. But in this case, the win is the win.
And no cap during playoffs, so you guys got to play smart ultimate.
Play the way to win. So our number 1 star of the game for the losing team is Colin Scarf. 4 goals, 4 assists, 2 second assists. So he was involved in 10 of his team's 16 goals. So really everything was running through him, doing his absolute best. But for our winning team, it was that 1-2 punch of Mikey Davidson and Jose. Playing some fantastic ultimate there to put in a great performance. And GM Nat Mullen, look at this as our breakout player of the game. 3 goals and 4 second assists.
Leading from the front. 41 touches. Yeah, 6 throwaways. Yeah. Not so great, but the percentage goes down the more you throw it. 5 of 9 on break opportunities, right? So those are some good results.
Yeah, so well done, Nat, both individually and for your team. With a big win. So Team Sully, which has looked so strong all season, has looked strong in the simulator, but had a rough game tonight. So
they had a loss coming into the playoffs as well, so maybe that was
that's
sort of
true. I don't know. Maybe the wheels are the Sully strategy of not having any handlers on the field might be coming back to haunt them. Are we hearing anything else about that final game?
No. Well, there's some snaps that the team won by us. Take that team won. I say take that favorites, really, because basically everyone who's been favored has lost.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at that bracket then, because we can now see what the rest of the playoffs look like. So look at that. The away team wins a pair of games, and in convincing fashion, I should add. As I recall, you're right. Team Sully did lose by 1 goal last week to Team Laura, but this week, looking much less convincing in the loss. So there you have it. There's our quarterfinal bracket. We've got our number 3 and our number 9 seed, Nat and Mehmet, playing at the top there. We've got our number 5 and our number 4 seed playing, Julia and Brian. Below that, we've got our number 1 and our number 6 seed. So that's a tough match there in that 3rd slot. And again, a rematch of the final game of the regular season that Laura won by just 1 goal. So that may be the game to watch next week. And then our last quarterfinal slot here is number 2 seed Morgan up against number 7 seed Al. So Morgan probably has the most advantageous position here, but Nat up against the number 9 seed also looks to be in a good position as we head into the quarterfinals. We didn't really speculate too much earlier, but now that we've had a sense of how each of these teams have played, now we know what the bracket looks like. Heather, do you feel confident calling a winner at this stage?
So I looked at your effectiveness ratings, Hadrian, and did an average per team. Based on that, I think you'd expect to see Nat and Laura in the finals, which are both strong teams. Though I follow Russell Wilson's philosophy of why not me, so I'm thinking that you're going to see Mehmet and Laura in the finals. Mehmet also has a very strong effectiveness rating, maybe not so much normal roster composition. But so we'll really see what wins out here, true ultimate play or the algorithm. And I have a feeling, since we're on the internet, that the algorithm's going to win.
Yeah, true ultimate is not worth that much, frankly. Nothing even, other than the numbers you put up in the first 5 weeks of the actual games we played. Jeffrey, how about you? Who do you like in this bracket?
Oh, I don't know. It's tough because I look at the players and I remember how they play for real, and that's not indicative of this at all. And like you said, like once the snowballs start rolling downhill, they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. I think someone's hoping perhaps that Alan's got all of his throwaways out in this game, but I might staple him to the bench in the quarterfinals. I think like the two big winners this week for me are the strongest teams. It's a shame that they have to play each other right away.
In Nat and Mehmet?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we're thinking we should shout out to John Rowe, who was the first and I believe only team in Parity League history to lead a number 9 seed to the finals. We
don't need to shout out John Rowe.
Yeah, and perhaps Mehmet will be the second one to do that. And for my part, it's hard to say. The teams that I thought Sully had done a good job, frankly, of kind of gaming or attempting to game the system. But as you said, the snowball matters here. So Sully, even if he had a team that looked good on paper, 2 bad weeks in a row is going to make his team less effective moving forward, because that's just how this algorithm works. It's iterative. The stats from each week affect future ones. So momentum really matters.
Yeah, if I can break into your momentum and derail your train of thought, how does your global inequality multiplier affect the snowballing of bad stats?
It slows the snowballing down. So the higher the inequality multiplier,
for Alan?
And that's that's partly why I've been reducing it, and I may even drop it to the floor for the next 3 weeks.
Wow.
The floor being 1.0. We get below that, you start getting inverted stuff. That's
how I throw indoors.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm simulating so weirdly.
Yeah, it's not inverted enough. So another way of saying that is by reducing that variable, we're getting more random outcomes, which is maybe more fun. Otherwise, you're basically just looking at how do the top players stack up against each other.
I like more random.
Yeah, so more random is maybe more fun. So, okay, there you have it. Maybe we should do, Jeffrey, if you don't mind, have one last look at the comments if there's anything people wanted to shout out. Otherwise, I would say, firstly, big thanks to our guests. Heather, it's great to have you on the stream. Do you have any parting thoughts for our many of fan?
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. I know as a fan of Frisbae, I'm loving streaming or tuning into these every week. And as a representative of Okua, I'm super grateful for everyone who's trying to keep our community alive as we are all staying home and trying to keep our friends alive. So it's been really great.
Absolutely. Jeffrey, do you have any final thoughts?
Doing this stuff sort of helps us, prevent insanity. As weird as that sounds, like this is just bizarre, the little pseudo universe we're creating for ourselves that's sort of tangentially related to what we used to do. But yeah, I would like to echo Heather's thoughts. It's a way to keep the community together. I've spoken at length over whatever media and sidelines and stuff about how Parity especially is a super great community. So that we do this, that there's our stupid podcast that is something for people to do. Cell runs a poker night, which kicks off in about 6 minutes from now as we speak. So that's another good way to keep in touch with people. Whatever you can do to stay in touch. Reach out if you need people to talk to. I think any face you can see on the screen is someone who will talk your ear off about Frisbee.
If we're plugging Frisbee community things, Crank runs live stream games every Friday. Well, typically most Fridays. So you can always tune in there too. We chat, we chirp, and we watch some Frisbee on Facebook.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. Yeah, check out the Crank page on Facebook for that. Otherwise, feel free to get in touch with any of us. That brings us to an end. Again, final housekeeping notes. I'll throw up the official game reports in that Dropbox folder. The link is in the video description here. Check out the forum in the next day or two for write-ups from these games. And if you're interested in helping with those write-ups, please let me know. I'd be happy to hand the reins over to someone who wanted to creatively describe what went down in the first week of playoffs. Otherwise, very much looking forward to seeing folks again. We'll aim to do this same time, same place on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. So see you again then. And
Quarterfinals.
for quarterfinals.
Let's
All right.
go.
Thanks again, folks. Have a good night.